If there ever was a British politician who had courage, grit, determination, elegance, and bravery to stand up to Islamic fascism, her name was Suella Braverman. I think she has earned the right to be called Suella Bravewoman. But lo and behold, anyone who stands up for Western secular liberal British values, how can they survive? And to make matters worse, she hasn't actually been stabbed in the back by cowardly leftist politicians. Well, they tried their best, but she's actually been stabbed in the back by her own ally, her own Prime Minister, the gutless, spineless Rishi Sunak. Why did he do that? Because he's a gutless, spineless Prime Minister. If you want to see that whom he's trying to appease, have a look at who is celebrating Suella's demise. The Islamists, the jihadis, the very people who want to replace the British values with Islamic values. A few days ago, Suella Braverman actually wrote an article where she criticized the Met Police of having a two-tiered system. One set of standards for jihadis and another set of standards for the right wing. Yes, we call anyone who stands up for British secular liberal values right wing. Some people call them the far right, when obviously it's none of that. I would refer to them from here on as British patriots. And the other side is called pro-Palestine, but they're not pro-Palestine. Let's just admit it. They are pro-Hamas because they have been chanting genocidal slogans like from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine.
Which means either kill 7 million Jews or to dislocate them. In these so-called pro-Palestine protests, people have been praising Hitler.
Why every so many hundred years the Zionists get slaughtered? Because Hitler knew how to deal with these people.
We live in funny times. These blue-haired, bleeding heart, tree-hugging, snowflake, self-righteous, virtue-signaling leftists are accusing people who are standing up against anti-Semitism, the far right, people like Suella Braverman, brown women like Suella Braverman, racist. These are funny times indeed. People who are standing up against anti-Semitism are being labeled as Nazis. This claim is as ridiculous as Putin calling Zelensky a Nazi when Zelensky is a Jew himself. Yes, these are funny times indeed. I first became aware of Suella Braverman when I heard when these leftists accused her of racism and said, ha ha ha, she wouldn't even allow her parents in. This is a classic case of strawmanning her argument. Suella Braverman is not anti-immigration. She is anti-radical Islamic migration. And then I got to thinking, if my parents were anti-Western secular liberal values, would I let them in? No, I wouldn't. I would say if you idolize and glamorize Islamic values, then go and live in the countries that practice those values. How is that racist? I'm a brown man, and I can say that. But yes, if you are pro-Western secular liberal values, then come and live in these countries. That is the epitome of Western secular liberalism. So Suella should be commended for staying loyal to British values rather than even her own parents. But I'm sure her parents are not anti-immigration. Her parents are not anti-British values. But those people who are anti-British values, they should be scared. And it should not be Suella Braverman coming after those people. It should be every British politician coming after them. But that's not the case. Even the conservatives like Rishi Sunak are bowing to these bleeding heart, snowflake, virtue-signaling, self-righteous leftists. The left is so broken that they can't even live up to the standards that they have set themselves. Just have a look at this. Suella Braverman, a brown woman, daughter of immigrants, is the Home Secretary and possibly the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Classical, leftist, liberal feminists would have been over the moon to see such a day, that a brown woman can achieve the highest job in the country. But no, these people are so in love with radical Islam that they are throwing away every decent leftist value, such as feminism. They've thrown it under the bus. If you are not in love with radical Islam, we don't care that you're a woman. We don't care that you're a brown woman. We're going to attack you, condemn you, curse you, and we're going to come after your jobs. That is the face of these modern leftists, which is the antithesis of classical liberalism. The classic liberal values that made the Western civilization the greatest civilization to have ever existed. And yes, I do believe the secular liberal Western values have made the West the greatest civilization to have ever existed. But all good things must come to an end. And this is exactly what's happening with the West. And it is disintegrating and falling right before our eyes. Why? Because the very values that made it the greatest civilization that had ever existed are becoming a hindrance. Tolerance is good, but you cannot be tolerant to intolerance. The West had this weird notion of seducing every non-Western, non-liberal society. Where did they get this idea from? After the Second World War, the West managed to turn Nazi Germany into a modern, secular, liberal, Western society. They also managed to do the same with Imperial Japan. Japan is a modern, liberal democracy today. And so is Germany. So the West thought that any primitive or barbaric or theocratic or totalitarian society we go to, we're going to seduce them to our Western way of life. Because it is so good, why would anyone not like it? But they underestimated one civilization, and that was Islam. Islam has been around for 1400 years. And you think it hasn't seen other tolerant societies? Look what it did to India. India in the ancient world was without a doubt the most tolerant society. Yes, it wasn't as perfect as the modern Western world, but it was pretty good. It was ahead of its time. But look what happened. They became too tolerant. They let the Islamic invaders come and conquer them. For 1,000 years, Muslim invaders ruled over India. And then after that, for 200 years, the British ruled over them. And this is why now the same Hindus who were so tolerant of other cultures are becoming more stringent in defending their civilization. But that resolve is lacking in the West. Why is it? Because we have been taught that we need to be tolerant to everything. This reminds me of that meme where a burqa-clad woman is asking her blonde-haired, blue-eyed Anglo-Saxon father that, "Dad, where were you when these Islamists were taking over?" The white dad responds that, "I was busy being tolerant. I did not want to be called a racist." This is exactly what's happening. The West is surrendering to these radical Islamists. That statement that she made that the Met Police has two-tiered system was so true. We have seen it. The Met Police, although in their official statement they said the pro-Palestine protesters were not as violent as the counter-protesters. They said that. But if you go through the timeline, the people that they're looking for are all pro-Palestine protesters, calling Rishi Sunak a coconut, praising Adolf Hitler, chanting genocidal slogans, calling the death of all Jews. They were all pro-Palestine. And what we see from the counter-protester sides, they stormed into the cenotaph. All they wanted was they be allowed to pay respect to World War I heroes. That's it. That's the only footage that they're showing. There's probably one more footage where a couple of white people are having an argument with some pro-Palestine people. But other than that, not much. So you wonder, was Suella right? Of course she was right. There is a two-tier system. The Met goes very lenient towards brown extremists, but they are extremely harsh on British patriots. And that's been the story of Britain for the last 20 years or so. And that is going to be the demise of Britain. Is this the end of Suella Braverman? I don't think so. I certainly don't hope so. I hope that she challenges Rishi Sunak for the top job. And I hope she displaces him. I don't know if she's going to be pushed into the backbenches. I don't know what's going to happen to Suella, but I think she should spend the next few months in consolidating her power, winning people in the Conservative Party to her side, and then challenge Rishi Sunak, because Rishi Sunak has single-handedly destroyed this party. And if things don't change, well, in the next general elections, the Conservatives are going to be destroyed. And if you think situation as far as Islamic radicalism is concerned has gotten really bad under the Conservatives, it's going to get a lot worse under the Labour Party. If you'd like to support my work, you can become my patron by going to patreon.com/Sultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee.